And we are live with another episode of the Keeg Talks. I just realized that my background has not changed. So, yes, if you're watching us live, you're watching us on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show. And if you are, then you can see that I got to update this background for Loki. But we're here to talk about Loki, Season 2. I'm your host, Dimithri Perera. Let me introduce our awesome guests. To my right, we got Sara Zitney herself, Miss Marauder. Sara, how's it going?
Hello, it's great. I'm in my childhood bedroom because the internet is out in my home. So, enjoy.
I'm glad that you have a childhood bedroom. Right?
Yes.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know? But thanks also for going the extra mile. Well, actually, I don't know how far away your childhood house is. It could be an extra couple.
Like miles. 6. Yes, I went an extra 6 miles.
Extra 6 miles just for this show. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
For being on this to talk about Loki Season 2. Right, if you can see the grid, because you're watching us live, but if you're listening to the podcast, wherever you get your podcast from, you can't see the grid. You can't see who everybody else is. It's kind of like a little Brady Bunch situation. In the box, underneath my box, we got Ryan Terhune, a.k.a. Ginger Snark. Ryan.
Hello.
How's it going?
Not too bad. I've been up for 13, 14 hours or so.
What are you doing? Were you just watching the final episode of Loki? Like over
and over and over and over, and I was working, but
oh no.
I wish I could watch it over. I wish I could watch it again for the first time. I'll say that.
Okay. I did rewatch the episode, so I've seen it twice. I don't know if anybody here has seen it more than once, but let me introduce our third and final guest, and then, maybe I'll ask some questions. We got Mariah Carley, aka Mariah Carley. There's like two Y's.
It's 2 Y's, yeah, 2 Y's. I wasn't creative enough, so.
I mean, that's cool. It's Mariah Carley. Why?
Right. Yeah. It's only because I kept getting people thinking I was Mariah Carey. So I just like, better way to salute it is just to add an extra Y.
I mean,
I don't know.
I'm with you.
I don't know.
But I also think that Mariah Carey also has a Y. So
yeah, it has a Y. She only has one, and she has no L. But it didn't stop people from thinking.
Doubled up on the L's.
Yeah, it did not stop people from thinking I was Mariah Carey. I don't know why.
Yeah. You don't know
it still
why,
happens.
You got 2 of them.
Yeah, I've got 2 of them now.
I'm super happy to have everybody back because the strike is over, SAG-AFTRA strike, writer's strike. We can talk and not be, putting too much power in places that there, shouldn't be. I'm glad that we're able to hop on and talk about Loki Season 2 because this final episode was crazy. And, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of everything. I want to know what everybody's thoughts were for Loki Season 1 before we start. Because Loki Season 1 was like the start of Phase 4, right? Like, ish. It was like peak Phase 4. Did you guys like it?
Yeah, it was probably my favorite, if not my, second favorite show. I'm actually wearing my favorite show shirt right now.
I was going to say, what's your favorite?
Yeah, I wonder what. No. But besides, Moon Knight, Loki it's probably my favorite.
Yeah.
So, especially that Season 1 was top quality, best Marvel show.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has their favorites. And so, I have my favorites. And then I have my least favorites. But this is not one of them, so I'm glad.
I loved Season 1, and I was a part of, I don't know if there's anyone else that was perplexed the way the internet kind of turned on Season 1, because I remember when the finale came out, and it was finally, they beat the problem of the shows always are super good, and then the last episode just kind of falls apart in a CGI slugfest, and we're like, it was so good up until the end. And then when the end was just 45 minutes of He Who Remains talking, we were like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. But then I feel like on the internet, it started to be like, it's gross that Sylvie and Loki kissed, and that's all that people talked about. And I was like, I thought it was really good, you guys. I thought
it made sense for Loki. I love Thor and I love Loki, and it just made sense. It's
Are we diving into this? We had okay. Might I say that for season 1 of Loki, we had an after show because we used to have after shows, and we'll get back to it now that the strikes are over. But like, we used to talk about every episode in detail, and a lot of those early Phase 4 MCU shows, there was a lot to talk about. So that came up once or twice or a million times. Do you guys have hard like beliefs on whether Loki and Sylvie is gross or not?
Okay. No, I don't, because it is Loki. Like, it only makes sense for him to fall in love with himself.
Okay.
It's also really hard for me to see them as the same person. They're so different, especially now. Like, I mean, they're both a Loki variants, but they're so different personality-wise that I don't see them as the same person.
Yeah, I never had a problem with it. I was always like, they're different enough. And now after season 2, I feel like I'm gonna be the lone, like, I liked the season as a whole, but I'm gonna be a little grumpy about some stuff, like the complete lack of chemistry that the two of them had. Like, anyone who didn't like the Loki Sylvie ship should have loved season 2, because it was non-existent. Nothing, no chemistry. I thought the chemistry was good in season 1, and it was non-existent.
I'm fine with it being non-existent.
You know, I didn't really pick up on that in season 2 because I was so focused on the rest of the story. I didn't even think about the whole relationship part, but I did notice, I was like, they made her a lot less likable. I'll say that. Yeah. I still like her, but I know they made her a lot less likable.
Yeah. My big problem with Loki season 1, which I feel like gets fixed a good amount in this season, is them tackling the timeline and how the timeline works, and like, it just, the rules didn't make sense. I'm a big time travel fan, and I know that there's different ways you can tackle time travel in fiction. It's made it sound like I'm a fan of personally time traveling. I have never done it, but in fiction, I'm a huge fan. And Loki season 1, although I liked the ride, when I finished the season, I looked back and I was like, the time travel logic doesn't make sense. And so for me, the same way it doesn't make sense, it also helps the fact that I view Loki and Sylvie as separate beings, because they should be. If the time travel stuff did make sense, then they would be a branch off the same timeline and then be the same person. But I don't consider them the same people.
I can see that. Yeah. I can definitely see that. It was, I'll be honest, this season was a bit confusing. It took me a little bit to figure out, like, what is happening. And I'll be honest, I'm still confused. I'm still very confused. I'm glad he got the ending he got, I guess, in the same, I guess this Loki did. I don't know. I'm very torn about it. Like, I feel sad because he is alone.
There's a lot to think about.
Right. Very bittersweet.
Yes, it is bittersweet.
I'm so relieved that you said that it was confusing, because there's a moment in the finale where I was like, huh? Like, there's like 2 or 3 moments where I was like, I'm going to be honest, I have no idea what's happening. But I was like, oh, it's timey-wimey. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't, it doesn't make sense. I love that timey-wimey is such a cultural, we just know what timey-wimey means.
Yes.
Like, but
my thing is, I just want to try to picture how is this going to happen with the rest of the MCU, because honestly, I feel like I'm just waiting for Marvel to do something, and then everything that we just went through with Loki is just going to be torn away. Like, it's not going to mean anything. Like, I want this to mean something, but I just don't trust the MCU right now to not just make all that confusion not mean something. I just hope we have a moment where it's like, oh, this makes sense. Like, only thing I can hope for is that the reason why the time stone is green is because of Loki.
I have heard a lot about that, right? And I have my own theories. This whole season it started off kind of slow, and I'm like, what's the point? I've been asking myself a lot about TV shows in general, like, what's the point? Why are we spending these many, like Ahsoka, for instance? What was the point? It was 8 episodes, right? 6 episodes, 8 episodes, and it could have been 3. And what was the point? There was a lot of like empty space. Pun not intended, but consider it intended.
It gave me a Clone Wars flashbacks. I don't care what you say. That's all I needed. That's all I needed from. That's all I needed from Ahsoka. That's it.
But
it gave me a lot of really good shots of the armor to make Sabine's armor.
There are pluses.
Yeah. No, it gave me Clone Wars. Like, oh my god, knock all Clone Wars. That's all I needed. Hyperventilated. That's honestly the show could have ended there, and I would have said this is the greatest show ever.
Yeah. Before we go forward, because I want to essentially go through what season 2 was, and then we can finally get the ending, and then we'll go over. There were some questions that people asked on Instagram that I do want to get to as well, but we got enough time. I do want to shout out Carson442007 who just subscribed on Twitch to the Keeg show, which is awesome. Thank you. Carson, and then also Aries13. Also, thank you so much for being a fan since the beginning. Shout out to Nighthawk1029 saying hi, Ginger Snark. Looks like it's one of yours, Ryan. It's one of yours.
That's one of mine. Hopefully they are well behaved.
There's also Torpedo Chicken who brings up Avenger Prime, which is also a comic book reference to Loki, which we'll also get to. Torpedo Chicken also says slow burn is great. That's why Counterpart was excellent. What does that mean? Counterpart?
I'm assuming that's a show?
It could be a show, could be an episode title. I'm not sure. Anyway, Loki season 2 starts off where Loki season 1 left off, right? The He Who Remains is dead. The timeline is branching. They can't control the problems that are essentially happening, right? Oh, it's a show with J.K. Simmons, Torpedo Chicken says. It's about, maybe it was a slow burn as well. How did you guys like the start of season 2? Like that first episode? Did it grab you guys the way that maybe it hoped to?
Hang on, they're all blending together. So.
I was like, what was episode 1?
I went through and took copious notes to remind myself what happened on every episode. So episode 1, we start Loki's time slipping. The loom is overloading.
Okay.
We meet OB and they have that delightful Loki talking to OB in the past. OB talking to Mobius in the future. They have to pull Loki out of the timeline. So he stops time slipping. And then the Docs versus B-15 plot that they tried a little bit to make us care about starts.
Yeah.
Try to make us care about. It's like a key. That's so key.
So Sarah's gonna save the day here with these notes because my memory is like that of a goldfish.
Here's the deal. I have notes by episode. However, the price you're gonna have to pay for that is there's a chunk that's about this big. That's about the Shakespeare reference and then the T.S. Eliot reference. So you just have to pay.
I wrote notes. I wrote notes for the final episode, and I thought that was good enough. But Sarah comes in with notes on everything. I also wrote.
I'm coming in just as confused as I watch the episode.
So it seems pretty straightforward, right? The season starts off pretty straightforward, as straightforward as a time travel show can get. Did you guys have hopes and dreams for season 2 going into season 2? Things that you wanted to see?
I wanted to make sense and it didn't happen. So that's honestly what I was hoping for. I was hoping for something to make sense in the MCU. And I thought I was going to get the answers. And
here's the goal. At the end of this podcast, hopefully it all makes sense, or at least more sense to all of us through talking it through. This is a book. It's like a book club, you know?
Yeah.
I tried to keep my expectations low and just be happy that we were getting a season 2. But based on what was in the trailers, which is my first mistake, I was hoping for a little bit more, I'm going to say timey-wimey again, like shenanigans. Like with the idea of time slipping, I thought it was going to be more of like slipping through different times.
Yeah.
Right? So we got like the 70s, we got, the 18 whatevers with Victor Timely, but then that was it. So I was hoping the time slipping would be the big problem and not the loom being the big problem.
Right.
So like, I mean, I still really like the season, but that was my hope. That's what I thought it was going to be going into it. I didn't like stake all my hopes on it, but that's kind of what I thought it was going to be.
I feel like the season was essentially, and this actually worked out well because I'm often a critic on taking a movie plot and just make it into 6 episodes. But I thought that this was the best example of like a decompressed movie. Like they would have cut out a bunch of stuff if they had made it a movie, but I feel like by having it be a TV show and be decompressed, they allowed much more time with the character and seeing, you know, kind of this, it wasn't empty space, you know?
I didn't have any expectation, to be honest. I blame Marvel for this. I went in there so open-minded for the series up until the finale because they kept making all these Easter eggs on Instagram that I was like, oh my gosh, this is what this is going to mean. And it didn't mean anything. I had to block Marvel for 2 days because I was so mad.
Have you seen the Loki Instagram now?
No, it was on the Avengers. It was on the Marvel Entertainment. It was on the Thor official Instagram, not Loki, Thor.
Yeah.
They were dropping Easter eggs, and they didn't even promote Loki season 2 on Thor's Instagram. Nothing about it until the finale. So I was like, oh my goodness, they're going to do all this. And I'll be honest, I unfollowed them for 2 days.
Okay, I'm out of the loop on this because I don't follow any, because I try to avoid spoilers at all costs. I avoid trailers. I don't watch trailers. I don't like follow any of the accounts or anything. So
You're
I didn't
lucky.
see any. I didn't see
It
any
doesn't
of this.
matter. You can watch it because it didn't matter. It didn't matter.
My friend casually mentioned something about Thor and then like didn't elaborate on it.
Yeah. Well, they dropped
what did everybody
3.
Thought?
Yeah. Well, they dropped 3 different, like for a whole week, drop Easter eggs about Thor and Odin and looming up. I guess it's because he gets the throne at the end, but it didn't do that. But the Avengers, the official Avengers, dropped stuff about Loki. Marvel did too.
And they all had clocks. The only caption was a clock, and they were all set to different times, so it was like counting down.
Aries 13 says that they deleted all the Loki posts on Instagram after the loom exploded the first time.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was just Miss Minutes.
That's fun. I didn't know
Miss Minutes going access denied.
Well, right now and I think this is symbolism. This whole final episode was super symbolic. I have my theories, but essentially the whole Loki, official Loki on Instagram, it says God Loki, burdened with glorious purpose, and it's just 12 blocks. It's 12 squares put together to make. Sorry, it's all green, so my green screen is like messing up. But it's Loki sitting on his throne, and that's 12 squares on the main profile. Actually, that kind of looks cool with the.
But that's for the 12 realms, right?
What's up?
That's because of the 12.
No, there's 10 realms. But
you're right. Sorry, I was trying to make a connection.
Like the symbolism. I think it's just it's a 4x3. You know, rectangle.
Okay.
So with everything, I mean, we should probably. I mean, I feel like most of the time we're going to be spending on this final episode. Ryan, were you also confused by the final episode?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
I handle time travel stuff pretty well, I will say. Most movies that I watch with it, I'm not usually that confused, and maybe it's because I watched way too much Doctor Who back in college, but I wasn't too confused on that one.
I was listening to someone talk about the finale, and they kept referencing a Doctor Who episode that I stopped watching Doctor Who before I got to that episode. So now I'm like, I have to watch it tonight because everyone's like, everyone says it's the best episode of Doctor Who ever. Like they all voted, and it's like the best one of all time. It's a Capaldi one.
Okay, I stopped watching a Capaldi too.
Yeah, apparently it's like Blink level of like the best of Doctor Who of all time. Yeah. I think it's called Heaven Sent.
I was
and I'm like, I should have to watch it.
I was streaming the other day, and we were talking about, I don't remember how we got on the subject of Doctor Who, but everybody was like, there is a Capaldi episode that's so good.
That's
And
probably
they
the one.
convinced me. I'm
Yeah.
going to get back to watching it. I'm going to bring it up again and try to figure out where I left off, and then watch some more Doctor Who, because I want to watch this episode.
I've heard you can just hop into that episode.
Oh,
Okay.
then I'll watch it. I'm not a Doctor
Kind of
Who
like
fan,
Blink.
but
Yeah, I have never watched Doctor Who either, so I'm just like,
I'll jump
I just
in
feel
for
like
an episode.
yeah, it's like, actually I lied. I did watch one because I saw the Van Gogh one and cried because
every time. I cry every time.
cry because I'm
Every
a
time.
I'm a huge Van Gogh fan, and it's just like, yeah, that one right there. I did watch that.
Let's quick show of hands. Out of 10, let's just say out of 10, and I'll ask you the same question at the end of this podcast, because maybe talking about this clarifies. As a whole, this season, how would you rate this season of Loki? Because before this ending, I would have rated it lower, but the ending makes it all kind of make sense to me. Ryan says how much?
9 for me. Yeah.
Okay, 9 out of 10.
I'll give it an 8, but it will be a 9 if they make something out of it. I just can't. I would give it an 8 because, like, first of all, cinematography, the storytelling was there. Like, I expected to go into this being confused, so that's what it gave me, confusion. Yeah. And yeah, acting. You can tell Tom Hiddleston loves this character, and it gave him a final goodbye. So yes, I'll give it. It's like teetering a 9, but I just don't want Marvel just to ruin everything they put into it, aka Doctor Strange.
I ranted about this yesterday with the Marvels. I do not like the multiverse. I like it as a concept in fiction, when done correctly, when done right, sparingly. But when you say everything is possible, then it's almost like what matters, you know? We have first-time chatter Chappelle, maybe the Dave Chappelle, I don't know, saying, I'm glad I stopped watching at episode 2 and then came back and binged everything through the finale. I would have hated watching it week to week. This might be a good season to, like, binge, yes. But
there were a couple episodes where I was like, gosh, dang it, I need to know what happens next.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a binge episode. Season.
Yeah, this season is like an 8.7 for me, but going into the finale, it was like a 5 or 6. There's a couple, as I was rewatching it to take my notes, I was like, wow, episode 3 for me is like borderline unwatchable.
Is that Victor Timely one?
That's the Victor Timely one. Borderline unwatchable. So bad.
He grew on me.
He did when there's less of him. Yeah, but like it was just like nobody had any hustle. Like Mobius, the loom's gonna explode, and he was like, let's get Cracker Jacks. And I was like, enough folksy charm. It's gonna explode. And then Victor Timely, because of the character choices that were made, like everything took a lot longer. So it was like everyone is going so slow. And then the clock is horny for some reason. And then all the decisions characters made. I'm just gonna rant about the episode for a second. Like Sylvie, I love that she couldn't kill Victor, that she was like, in you I see myself, right? I was just a kid, I hadn't done anything yet, but I got pruned. You're just a man who hasn't done anything yet, and I'm about to kill you because of what you might become, right? But then she sent Ravonna to the end of time with a tempad. That has to be like the only thing I can think of is Sophia DiMartino and the actress who plays B-15 must have had some kind of outside beef with the creators of the show, because like ridiculous. Like the decision that Sylvie made. Also, they let Victor Timely go in the door in front of them. Wild choice. Like, and then poor B-15 doing the best with what she was given, but they didn't give her anything. They made Sylvie as unlikable as possible. Episode 3 was a hard watch for me, and then I didn't really like episode 5 very much.
Whatever happened to Zaniac or whatever that guy was?
He got one shot. There was one shot of him in the finale.
Oh, okay. Is he?
Which one's that?
When he goes back in time to be like,
an
Miss
actor?
Minutes, I know you're hurt right now.
No, he was killed.
Brad?
I thought they killed him.
No, because
No.
Ravonna spared him and killed the rest of the people with the.
Yeah,
And
but I
then-
thought Loki and Sylvie killed him when they got their magic.
No, they enchanted him, and then he pruned Ravonna, and then was just like, when he woke up, and then we never
yeah.
see him again.
That's right. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sylvie enchanted him. He pruned Ravonna,
I
and then
think,
like popped out of it and was like, "Oh my gosh!" And
yeah, I
that's
think
the
they
end.
knew he didn't really want to
Matter.
be there.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he was just kind of like, I'm just trying to survive right now.
Yeah. Leading up to this finale, we see a lot of stuff. We see a lot of these characters in their previous lives. These are lives that, if they weren't snatched out of time, that would be their life, right? And I feel so bad for Mobius. Was Ryan mouthing something? Ryan, what are you gonna?
I was gonna say, I don't feel bad for the life he was snatched away from. It just doesn't seem super fulfilling.
Well,
I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah.
I hated it. To learn, so Mobius has this whole thing about how, what if his life was good, right? That's what he's most afraid of. And then to make him a single dad that's kind of annoyed at his kids all the time, who then, when Loki's like, I can bring you right back, it's like, you won't miss any time. He's like, okay. Like, maybe it's because I'm a parent, but like, that was ridiculous. And to have the only thing that, like, the jet ski thing, that is not how I wanted the jet ski thing to pay off. Like, the jet skis, like, that ship had sailed, I think. Like, I already wasn't, like, I wanted to see him, like, did his wife get blipped? Did his wife leave him? Did his wife die? Like, I'm sorry, snapped, whatever it's called now. Where it's like, he's a single dad and he's just gonna leave. Like, I don't think I would leave if Tom Hiddleston showed up. And that's saying a lot for me. But I wouldn't leave my child behind as a single parent if Tom Hiddleston was like, here's your call to adventure. I would be like, I'm sorry. I'm all she has. Like, that, like, something that, like, that should have been such an emotional payoff. And it was just nothing. And it made me very, very frustrated.
Okay.
I have to agree. Like, it honestly felt like none of that mattered. I don't know. I just didn't like it either.
Yeah.
I just didn't make sense to me, because it's like, if he was gone, wouldn't their lives keep on continuing? Like, what happens whenever? That's what I kept on thinking. Like, okay, if they're gone for this, like, if they're pruned or if they're taken to TVA, does that timeline just stop?
Well, they can travel back to that same amount of time, like, same time, right?
To the same point in time, so it's like he never left.
Yeah, except he's technically aged and gained wisdom of X amount of time.
But not physically, as far as we know.
Yeah, as far as we know, but I don't know.
Because they had that one moment where he said, they won't even know you were gone. And he said, but I'll know. And I was like, yeah, more of that. But then they were like, okay.
Yeah.
What
were you going to say?
I was going to ask if anybody had heard the theory of Mobius being an Odin variant. Yeah.
I haven't heard it, but
it doesn't matter now.
It doesn't matter now. There were a lot of parallels with his kids being like Thor and Loki, just in their like characters, and then the older kid that was compared to Thor saying that he really likes snakes, like how Thor was like, I really like snakes, and then Loki turned into one and then he bit me, like, things like that. Yeah. I was like, okay, I can kind of say, I don't see like for sure that they would go into that, but I think it's a fun little idea to play with.
Oh, that would have been nice if they would have done that, because
I mean,
I like an Easter egg being an Easter egg sometimes.
Yeah,
like,
it's just symbolism. It doesn't have to be, which kind of fits in with when people are comparing Loki to the Time Stone, it's really the color green and it's time, right? But I think that what we see in the end of this is almost that it's more like correlation, not causation. It's green is life is the tree, time is the tree.
I like that.
Loki is the tree, right? Like, these are all the green things that are... So, like, yes, maybe time is green because the tree is green in a weird way, as opposed to some people
because
saying
green
that,
means life. Yeah. I can see that. I like that.
Because I was thinking about the other stones. None of the other things in the stone... There's no life stone, right? Like...
Soul.
I guess. But, like, green is soul?
No.
I don't know. Yeah. So, getting us up to this final episode, just people are making jokes in the comments. I see you guys. There's 3 parts of this episode. We'll take it step by step. The first part is we start off with, again, the throughput multiplier. We see it that Loki is like, we're gonna go faster, right? That's pretty much where it starts.
Mm-hmm.
We see
Victor Timely get spaghettied like 35 times.
Again, yeah. It's so sad when it happens. I'm just like, I don't know. Did you guys have any... we see this, like, he goes again faster, and he just keeps going faster and trying to cut down time that way.
The amount of time it took him to get to, like, oh, not faster but earlier, was frankly hilarious.
Too long.
Like,
yeah.
He's like, we waited too long, and I'm like, okay, you don't need like 17 more seconds. You need to go back further. But right. It was like a funny gag to just watch him do, and that was like, I mean, the highlight reel for Tom Hiddleston. Like we're just running laps and doing just the most charming things.
Right.
Faster. Amazing.
Also, the fact that like there's random chance that gets involved, and Victor Timely's goggles will fly off, or like, you know.
Oh yeah.
Because it like, you could hear the frustration of like, you put it down, it's gonna roll off, like, and then I'm gonna have to do it all over again. Like,
right.
The green button. Green.
And he's like, hit it again.
The like deadpan of him going, "Be brave. You're being so brave," was just like just so funny.
I think that the symbolism kind of compounds on itself throughout the whole thing. I think that like he was trying not to leave it up to chance or probability, and through time travel is able to do it more than one time, over and over again, until hopefully it finally happens. I think that Loki has a problem with control. I think that's literally his whole being, right? It's manipulation, it's lies, it's trickery, it's control. And he's moving everybody around like chess pieces, like he used to, right? Like he's always done. Am I crazy?
No, you're right.
That.
There's also a moment I feel like that should have been sadder than it was. Not that I want things to, well, I do want things to be sadder, always sadder. But like when he does the thing where he says, "How long would it take me?" And they said centuries, and it says centuries later. I'm like, that's horrifying. Like he's been doing this for centuries. Like that's so sad. Like just he's going over it. Like that's terrifying.
Yeah.
But it's just like, haha, it's been centuries.
Yeah. I don't know how they would make it more serious.
Yeah.
Like without having us watch all of the centuries go by.
Could you imagine like dying though so he had to relive his death for centuries, or all of his friends dying.
All his friends dying, yeah.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was gonna say, I will say, when that popped up and it said centuries later, both my husband and I, like, our jaws dropped. We're like, oh snap. Like he's gonna be at this a while, I guess.
Yeah.
But also not trying different combinations, like making Victor go in it every time. It's like, you're a god. Why didn't you go in it? Like
maybe he did in the
time.
Centuries that he tried this
true.
over and over.
Honestly, I don't think he tried. The reason is that because I wrote down control versus success versus self-preservation. Loki, I mean, I don't think he's being a coward by being like with his self-preservation. But like, if he dies, then he can't rewind time and do it again. If something goes wrong out there, there's only so much he can do.
Yeah, I
right?
don't think he tried either, just because the simple fact is because he didn't realize until talking to He Who Remains that it was a failsafe, because they all were doing like this. He was believing like the probability and doing the math from OB, like they needed the temporal oil, whatever.
Yeah.
I can't even say it. And you know, obviously of He Who Remains, and that's where Victor Timely was like, only he could do this, and because
Oh, good point.
And why did he go is because he was the one who volunteered, right? And like, I guess the hard part is getting someone to volunteer. So now that we got someone to volunteer, he plays that role in this sort of chess game. Victor Timely, it's his job. You know.
Well, it's not just that he had to volunteer. Anyone. Well, he had to volunteer as in like he has to be a willing counterpart. I didn't understand this part, but like when Loki put his head underneath it says it didn't match. Like when they put it inside that little box thing, and then Victor's did. So, but he has to be willing and he has to match. His DNA has to match.
Oh, so like you couldn't scan Timely's face in and then have like
No,
Mobius go to the outside?
You could, because that's what he does at the end.
No, but he pulls it open with his telekinesis.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
Correct.
I think he pulled it open because they wouldn't open it for him, though. Because I think technically it could, because Mobius went out there earlier in the season. Like, I think anybody could have. I think the reason it was timely is because Loki knew eventually at the first time around he did volunteer. Yeah. And you're right, you do need someone who's willing and wants to do it, or else they're going to hesitate, they're going to make mistakes, you know, this and that.
You can't force anyone.
You can't force anyone. Even if you, like, it kind of felt bad to the point where when he was like, oh, you're going to do it timely. You're going to want to do it, you know, in the future. And I know it's because he's run through it a billion times over the century, but it still kind of felt like, let him make his own choice, please.
Yeah. I want to shout out all the people that are out there in the audience right now. If you guys like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff, especially for Ryan, for Mariah, for Sara, go follow them on social media as well. Just throwing that out there. Oh, Mr. Plow. What's up to Mr. Plow out there? What's up, Paul? Oh. Paul says the time radiation was higher this time around than when Mobius was there. And we see the mistakes like the loose helmet, the rolling off the walkway, don't set it down, you know, that sort of thing. Then
they fix it.
Yeah. Then it works, right?
Kind of.
3 seconds.
Kind of.
But then they fixed like the biggest problem that I had. Because I think I probably said this to you, Dimithri, before, that when they said that, like, way back in like episode 2, I think, when they bombed the branches, and they were pruning the branches, and they said 30% of the branches, and I was like, that shouldn't be possible, because they should be expanding at an infinite rate. There should be no 30% of the branches. Like, there shouldn't even be a quantifiable number. So when he said it's a scaling problem, you can't scale for infinite, I was like, thank you.
Finally, that was
someone said it. I've been wanting you, like,
finally some science in our science fiction.
I know.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, in the sense that, like, if we're dealing with timelines based off of people's free will, then we're dealing with infinite amount of people with an infinite amount of choices, right? Mm-hmm. You know, whether to put their right foot forward or their left foot forward can change things. Like, you know, so the throughput multiplier doesn't work. I mean, it works as intended, but the way they realize is that they can't do it. And so Loki looks happy, and he feels like, I feel like he was like, I'm a hero, right? Like, he managed to make it all work. He's a hero. And by the way, he never says I love you. I don't know. I was like, I just feel like he should tell at least Mobius he loves him, but that's a side thing. We learned that we can't scale for infinite.
And then Sylvie has the worst line in all of television history.
Which is...
She says, and I quote, it's almost as if, as soon as the timeline started branching, this was doomed to happen. And I was like, for real? I literally wrote in my notes, wow, they really hate Sylvie, huh? Like, it's like the epitome of, like, you're always like, show, don't tell, show, don't tell. And she's like, you have to go back to when I killed He Who Remains. And it was like,
No,
all right,
duh.
like, no, like, obviously, like, it was so frustrating because I was like, we all are already there. Like, everyone watching it realized that at that moment. And then, like, Tom's doing a good enough job. Like, he's a good enough actor that he can play that on his face without you, like, saying it out loud. It was like when they say the name of a movie in the movie.
Right.
Like, roll credits. Like, when she said that, I was like, that's the show.
Yeah. They say the show title a lot in this show.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, they do.
Now, someone in the chat is saying that they screwed Sylvie over this season, and I agree because I loved her so much in the first season, and everybody did. Everybody was, super. Their costumes going on, everything. Everybody loved Sylvie, and then every time I went and read like the Reddit after show, after episode threads and everything, everybody's hating on Sylvie, and I'm like her haircut's stupid. Her acting's bad. I'm just like, what? What happened?
I don't think her acting was bad. I just think they gave her
either.
I think they gave her some terrible lines. Yes, I did not like her haircut. They could have at least changed that up a little bit. They could have done that a little bit.
I understand why she had it, but she could have changed it as soon as she was outside of that timeline.
There is one person who had the worst acting I've ever seen, and it was the guy who wanted to be an actor. I don't know what his name, but I'm telling you right now, the first episodes that he's in, that was the worst. I hate picking on anyone's acting, and that was awful to me. I don't know.
It was on purpose because he wanted to be an actor, and they were like,
maybe if that then go ahead and go with it. But I will say, when I was like, I couldn't get behind this. First of all, this new officer that we didn't even see in the first season. It's like, why not reuse someone who was in the first season? Like, instead of introducing a new, I don't know. This is my opinion.
We were a little confused on who he was for the first few episodes. We're like, is this someone we're supposed to remember from the first season? And then we figured it out. But yeah.
Right.
No. I thought that was a miss. I thought you should have at least, there were some other officers they gave a little cameo who was in the first season. Like, make him be that person, or make someone else, someone we've seen before.
The guy that was B-15's friend who got pruned drinking the hot chocolate, he's from season 1, and I don't know what his name is.
Oh, and
in episode 1, he gets he's in multiple episodes of this, just doing whatever B-15, she'll just tell him to do something. He's like, I don't even know if he has lines. He just nods. And then he tries to give him the hot chocolate. Tamlin tries to give him the hot chocolate, and then he gets pruned.
That made me so sad, by the way. Because there's a Timely holding his hot chocolate, that hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
thought they also did Ramona dirty too. I think they did all of them dirty except for Loki. I mean, I guess that's the point.
I think Ramona's gonna come back. I think
it's weird.
She will play a bigger part, but I think Loki's done.
In a show called Loki, you want it to be about Loki, but if you're gonna have other characters in it, you have to do something with them. Yeah, Ravonna at the end, it was very end of Ahsoka, where in the Ahsoka, it's not a spoiler, but in the Ahsoka finale, where they were like, oh, Bailey Shin, oh my god, quick, 15 seconds of them staring at things, and then they're like, okay, that's how Ravonna was in the finale. They were like, oh shit, we left Ravonna at the end of time.
Yeah,
quick, Elias, get out here, do a quick little thing with her.
Yeah,
it's like they forgot. Oh, we're rebooting Miss Minutes, and it's like, why did you have that whole subplot with Miss Minutes wanting a body? And then but that's in my just autobiography. Why are TV shows 6 episodes long now? Why isn't this 10 episodes long? For the love of all things sacred, why are TV shows why is this so short?
Because we have short attention spans.
I don't know if it's the attention spans. I think it's the amount of story to tell. It's easier to write a shorter story that's more movie based and one singular plot line. But back in the day, you used to have 22 episodes with multiple characters going through multiple things all at once. Andor, I will always bring it back to Andor. Andor was amazing. Yeah, it's cheaper to write just 6 episodes. but also Andor did multiple plots in multiple episodes throughout the whole season, and Andor was the best. And
did it right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to go back to Ravonna for 1 second, though,
Yeah.
because there was something I wanted to talk about earlier and I forgot until just now. The scene where she traps him in the box and then it's horrifying, first of all.
Yeah.
Second of all, was that not just like making her kick the dog? Like, just to make her eat, like she's the bad guy, guys. See this evil thing she did for no reason?
Yeah.
That makes her evil. Like, that kind of upset me. I was like, you can have her. She was kind of doing her thing, what she thought was right. But then you just have her murder a bunch of people for.
And then not do anything. Yeah.
Gruesomely murder a bunch of people for no apparent reason. Because she could just left them locked. Like, what are the extra people going to do, really?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
The sound design of that, though, was
fantastic. I'm glad we didn't see it.
Yeah.
I was like,
I don't think they could have shown that.
It, you cowards. They could have done some dripping blood.
I don't know if it's
although the sound
blood.
design, I just know there was someone in the room that was like fighting for the sounds. They were like, I don't know if we should do the sounds, and they were like, you have to do the sounds. And I'm glad that they got the sounds. And someone in the chat said something like the filler episodes, but I mean, maybe because Lost is my favorite TV show of all time. There's certain episodes, and this season is very Losty, but there's certain episodes where it's like you don't know you want it until it's there, and you're like, this entire episode of like someone's alternate timeline, and you would have never thought to ask for it, but it ends up being the most delightful 40 minutes of television.
Right.
So that, like, if I had an episode of B15 as a doctor to find out she's in New York City in 2012 on this branch timeline. Did the Battle of New York happen on her timeline? Well, she's
right. That's what I was hoping to see.
If we had an episode, if this was a 12-episode season, and we could spend an episode with the side timelines, right, and then pull them all out, so that we cared for what they got pulled out of. Yeah, Brad Wolf had a weird relationship with Docs. They did like the very close, like their faces were really close, and I was like, is this a mother son? Is this what's happening here? Never paid off. We don't care about Docs. Like, it's like, if you're gonna plant a seed and then completely neglect it, like, I'm glad we got the time with Loki because that's who I really care about, right? But like, don't tease me and then not ever do anything with that.
You think maybe it just all got cut?
I mean, they probably didn't film it because it takes money to film in the first place. The goal is to cut the least amount of possible. Just film less, cut less.
Well, I just didn't know. Maybe they did film something, but when post-credit and when they went through, they were like, oh, we're going to make this 10 episodes. And then they were like, nah, let's go back to doing 6.
I mean, it's possible. It could also be possible that they wrote it.
Yeah.
And then they cut the writing down, right?
That's true.
But I also think that, like, shows that are based around plot and plot only, so like movie shows, like something like Moon Knight, right? They have a set amount of things, and like Moon Knight was very much like Moon Knight the movie, but like 6 hours, right? It's less. You obviously can't have filler, but like in a longer TV show, you can have filler and serve the purpose of like showcasing characters. Because you're not beholden to the plot so much, right? There isn't a countdown clock, like the Egyptian gods coming back, like there is, you know. So I don't know. It just depends on the pacing of a show.
Moon Knight's the best. I just love how it can just stand alone. I was going ahead and say that. So excited.
I like Moon Knight, but it was it was Moon Knight the movie, right? It was a 6-hour movie. But I'm trying to read the chat as well. So let's bring it back to Loki goes back to Kang, goes to the point in which Sylvie is fighting Kang. I also make note that like Loki is a lot about starting and stopping other people's actions, not just as a power, but just as a way of doing things, right? Like he gets people to do things or he gets people to not do things, and you know, he gets hands-on, but it's Loki is a manipulator. He is a control freak, right? And we learn that Loki can pause time. And we get this conversation between Kang or He Who Remains and Loki. Is this where it starts getting confusing for anyone?
Yes. When he said that he planned him to be time slipping, I was very confused. Also, adding another list to the list of ways Sylvie was wronged, literally wipe her out of the scene. Like, that was like so disrespectful to me. They're like, oh, she's in the eye line. Let's just like delete her out of this scene. And I was like, Jesus, like they hate this character. Like, that's rough. But then yeah, he remains calling him kiddo, I think at one point, and then champ at another point. I was like, oh man, I hate this guy, like in the best way. Like they did a really good job.
He Who Remains, you're saying?
Yeah.
But also like how they used him to like kind of like outsmart, like he's actually learned something than more than He Who Remains. Like he, after all that, he's been through centuries of him time slipping, going back, learning to control it. He's learned how to pretty much outsmart He Who Remains and be He Who Remains at the end, of not just being like, he finally said, I'm like, He Who Remains isn't a god, but Loki's like, I am a god. So it's kind of like that coming back around, like
his scene of like, what makes you think this is the first time, and you see He Who Remains face like change, like, oh, okay, we're serious now. I'm not messing around with you anymore because you know what you're doing. That was a moment for sure.
Yeah. Keep in mind that He Who Remains, his origin story is he's just a human being that, you know, got really sciencey and then, you know, really timey, right? And like he through an eternity and multiple instances and variants and whatnot is this time god that we know, but he's still human. I feel like that factors in. There's some people in the chat saying like Lost in the Woods. Shout out to Lost in the Woods. Can we talk about how his powers are so on and off and why he never uses any of his incredible abilities? I'm assuming they're talking about Loki. Are they talking about Loki?
In the
or talking about
They're talking about Loki.
Well, in the TVA, He Who Remains turned off, and Miss Minutes turned off the power. Like they couldn't use their powers inside. There's like something about it controlling their powers. Because there was that episode where Obi is like, oh, I don't want to reset this because then all the magic, and then they're like, turn it off. But there's something controlling their magic, and he kept time slipping. So at some point, like since he kept going back in time, Obi never turned it back on. So because he kept going back in time, because it's kind of like, and that's.
I think it's a respect thing.
No, I think it's a disrespect thing.
Yeah, I think it's disrespectful.
But yeah.
But I do like that in this scene. I feel like he's like in all the Groundhog Day stuff, right? He's very like hopeful that he can fix the loom. But now that he has to get here to Sylvie and she keeps doing that, if you want to stop me, you're going to have to kill me. Like that's when you can really feel his exhaustion. Like there's a couple moments where he's like, you can hear, he's like desperate to get her to stop. And like, I feel like it really plays off then. And I like that, like you hear the stabbing happening over and over again.
Keep in mind that like Loki is a lot about starting and stopping other people and whatnot. And we see that also in his powers. But also that like he now with this Sylvie thing at the end, he sees two choices, right? Kang gives him two choices. He Who Remains gives him two choices. One is kill Sylvie or have everything die, right? That everything is just going to collapse in and of itself. Or you can just kill Sylvie. Did I say kill Sylvie?
Yeah.
I thought they were going to kill her.
I didn't think so.
I thought.
I didn't think so because I felt like that would have like he has like the best character arc that would have ruined his. Actually, I could see them ruin a character arc, but for him to not ruin it, he had to sacrifice himself. So I was like, all right, he's going to sacrifice him. I knew that especially when he went back to Mobius. I know a lot of people took that as in like, oh, he's going to go back and kill Sylvie, but I think on that sense, he was still playing out in his mind that he's going to sacrifice, basically saying goodbye to everyone. And I think at that moment he knew he was going to sacrifice himself.
I think he was still trying to work out how. whether there can be another option, right? Because He Who Remains just sees two options, because He Who Remains is of his own perspective. And he also feels like Loki could be manipulated in a way, right? That Loki can't venture outside who he's been this whole time. Right?
There's a very good comp for this that I just realized, but I don't know if any of you watched Jujutsu Kaisen. Do you guys watch JJK? Anyone? Okay. There's a moment, maybe someone is listening that has. There's a moment where they put him kind of this character in this situation where they're like, he's not going to use his powers because if he uses his powers, he's going to kill everyone. And he's not going to do that because we know he's okay with casualties, but not him causing the casualties. And then, so like that's the kind of predicament. So I think that's the Kang thing. Kang is, or He Who Remains, whoever he is, he doesn't have the imagination to see that Loki could just destroy the Lumen, become the god of stories, right? He doesn't have the range, right, to even think of that as a possibility. He thinks, oh, I got him now because this is the only thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Because He Who Remains is powerful, but he's also arrogant. And arrogant people can only see what they see.
Yeah. Well, I also got the feeling that He Who Remains was like, this is my system and I want it my way, and this is the only way we can do it my way. There's another way outside this, but it doesn't involve me, therefore that's not an option, you know?
Right.
So I think he was trying to really force Loki down one path that would lead towards his way, which was killing Sylvie, so that
the narcissism
would work. Yeah, that would work that way, or get stuck in this loop over and over again. Either way, it feels like He Who Remains would have won that way. So I think I don't know if it was that he didn't see this possibility. I think he just didn't consider that Loki would ever take that and be selfless and take that sacrifice.
Yeah. I think something that really helps this season is that it ends.
Yeah.
And what also helps this ending is that, this is a Loki variant, right? It is technically a Loki variant. It is not the Loki that died, that went through Ragnarok, the movie, that died at the end, right? Or the beginning of Infinity War. It is technically a Loki variant, right? But when they're with Kang, we mentioned T.S. Eliot earlier. I was like, why is he saying this quote? Have I heard this before? Was this mentioned? But he says, we die with the dying, but are born with the dead, which is a paraphrasing of a T.S. Eliot poem called Little Gidding. I did some research, but I'm assuming Sara did more.
Yes, hello. I'm an English teacher that did a full semester study on T.S. Eliot. So Little Gidding is from a collection of poems called The Four Quartets. And Tom Hiddleston has said that he studied this for Loki. So I think that this is just a hunch for me. I think that he improvised it. I think that he pitched that line. I don't think they wrote for him to reference T.S. Eliot. He also references Richard II earlier when he says, I wasted time, now time wastes me. That's a Richard II quote from Shakespeare. And that's famously about a guy who doesn't really want his crown. But has to, yeah. So Little Gidding is about the cyclical nature of time. So some other lines with this are, when you said, I like that it ends, another line from this poem is, what we call the beginning is often the end, and to make an end is to make a beginning. We shall not cease from exploration. At the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. So that idea that he goes through all of it to come back to the beginning when he first met Mobius, but is seeing it anew. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. I love T.S. Eliot. I love poetry. And then there's also a line from it that says, not known because not looked for, but heard, half heard in the stillness between two waves of the sea. That idea of Mobius never looking for his life. He can't see it because he's never looked for it. But now that he's at the end of the journey, he's ready to look and ready to hear and ready to kind of see that. I think
that's why he said he just wanted to look at it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Clever.
Yeah. And that's what it says. So he says, every phrase and every sentence is an end and a beginning. Every poem is an epitaph. Any action is a step to the back. We die with the dying, see they depart and we go with them. We are born with the dead, see they return and bring us with them. So it's about war, because it's during World War II, but it's also like, yeah, seasons, and every ending is a beginning, every beginning is actually an end. So yeah.
I'm glad that we were able to go through that, because I looked it up earlier and I was like, oh, cool. All right.
Yeah, Tom Hiddleston has said that he like has studied this section of poems, and I think it's also on the bookshelf in Interstellar. They're fun. Another fun T.S. Eliot fact.
Another
that makes sense, because this confused me
Yeah.
just like Interstellar.
Cool.
And I really liked Interstellar too.
I love Interstellar. It's
Yeah.
another time related
that
story.
gave me a nerd. It blew my mind, that movie. I was just like,
so
it was beautiful.
With Loki talking to King says a couple things before Loki starts to think about going back to Mobius. King says he's alone. Oh, and by the way, the motto of the TVA is for all time, always. Pops up a lot of times. For all time, always. So King talks about alone at the end of time, keeping watch. That's his, right? That's why he made the tough choices. That's why he gets the big chair. Right? He keeps people safe. And I think that those start to, like, Loki, it starts to click, right? Loki goes back in time to talk to Mobius. And he has a pretty good talk with Mobius. He mentions that he was born to be king, and then Mobius is king of what? Right? That's Mobius?
Mm-hmm.
And Mobius talks about the story in which Ravonna and him used to be partners. They were sent to kill a child, an anomaly, a variant. They were sent to kill this child, and he couldn't do it. Mobius couldn't do it. And I think this factors in that he had two choices, right? One is kill the child, or, I guess have hell break loose. He didn't kill the child. Hell broke loose. Ravonna kills the child. Right? Because it's two choices. That's all he gets. Do you guys like this final scene? This final scene with Mobius and Loki?
I did.
Yeah.
It took, for me, it was like I said, like, gave him that goodbye, because the next scene we got with Mobius was not good. So, yes,
I liked it. I really liked the story. I liked the delivery of the story. I wish it would have been with Pi Mobius. I wish that he would have traveled back to a Mobius that knew him. I feel like that would have been, but it's Loki's goodbye, not Mobius's goodbye, I guess.
Yeah.
But I wish it would have been the Keyline Pi. I wish he would have gone there, but
I think it also could have been that, like, he needed advice from somebody who he trusts but doesn't know. Like, right? Like, we trust the people that we know, and Loki trusts Mobius enough that, like, he will take advice from Mobius even if Mobius doesn't know Loki. Right?
I thought, I took it as in he went back to that point of time because it gave him a Mobius, like, say, okay, he sees this version of Loki of how good he is, because at that point Loki was still teetering between being good and bad. So that's why Mobius knew who he would become at the end, because he met that version inside that room. So he goes, there's good, and he kept giving him a second chance and a second chance because he met that ending version of Loki. That's how I took it.
You're doing like, it's like Harry Potter Patronus. Like, I know you can be good because you were already good.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I because I'd already done it.
Yeah.
I like that.
Because, like, it's like what, like, everything happens. That's, oh my gosh, that is definitely a Harry Potter timeline. So basically what had happened already had happened, like, because it was going to happen type of situation.
Yeah.
Like, you don't change.
I think it's interesting that, like, Mobius was talking to Loki around the time, like, pretty much right after they captured him. He is essentially, like, the villain from Avengers. Been, what, an hour? 2 hours removed from that? Ryan, you got thoughts?
Oh, that was something with the first season where I was like, I want I want my other Loki. I want the Loki that's had all the growth and the, it's better now, a better person. But we get to watch him grow all over again, all the way through season 2. So I think it was with him going back to talk to Mobius. I think that was kind of what you're saying about like, oh, it's someone you trust, but you don't want someone who's emotionally involved and connected with the situation at hand per se. So that's probably why he went back to that version.
He's kind of like an unbiased third party. Okay, you guys changed my mind. But then we get the best, what I thought was the best exchange was that he tells him that the burdened with glorious purpose, it's more burden than glory.
Mm-hmm. I love that line.
Which was amazing. That was like, I was kind of blown away by the writing there, and I was like, these are the same people that wrote Sylvie's line earlier. Sometimes it's just a good one. But but then I felt kind of I have a tattoo that has glorious purpose with Loki's helmet. So I was like, oh, it is burdened with glorious purpose, right? And that idea that he said, how do you get through it? And he said scar tissue.
Yeah.
Like, that's good. That was a good one. They like Mobius.
He also mentions you never want to be the guy who avoids it because you can't live with the burden. Right? And so like if glory, is your thing, then you have to deal with the burden that comes with it. He also mentions that Ravonna had to do the thing that had to be done. And like that there's no comfort, you just choose your burden. And like it's just Loki being like, oh, okay, I guess this is it then. I know what I have to do.
But then he gets the choice to be like Ravonna and have his burden be killing Sylvie.
Right.
Or be like Mobius and have his burden be becoming the Loom.
Yeah. Where does he say it's okay to destroy something if you hope you can replace a thing with something better? Where was this?
That was in the last episode, right?
He says that to Sylvie. I think.
When does he say? So after this Mobius scene, where does he go next?
He goes to Sylvie.
Oh, okay.
And that like weird time outside of.
That's right.
Where they had like the whole group together, and then they all start going in there, and she's like, "What's happening?" And then he pauses time, and then they talk.
She says that she's lived in apocalypses. She says, first of all, I don't give you permission to kill me. And then she says, I've lived in enough apocalypses to know it's okay to destroy something. And then he says something about there being a hope to build something better.
Yeah, I think what he said is it is okay to just like let things die, destroy things if there's a hope of replacing it with something better.
Don't burn things down just for the sake of burning things down.
Yes, which is what Sylvie was doing. She's like, just burn it all to the ground. Don't care. It'll sort itself out,
Right.
And then Loki's basically saying, like, someone has to be the one to hold it together, like something.
When he said that, like, if there's something, the hope, the chance of something better to replace it with, I was like, gotcha. So that's when I think he made that decision where he's like, I have to take that place. But that's when I got it, where I was like, oh, okay, this is where it's going.
Yeah. He says, I know what kind of God I need to be for all of us. And
I that to Odin.
For you, for all of us.
I'm sorry?
He says for you, and then he pauses, and then he says for all of us.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the same. Yeah.
Yeah, same thing he said to Odin in the first Thor before he died the first time.
Wait.
First time.
I missed this part. What was it, Mariah?
That's the same line he said to Odin before he died the first time in the Thor. It's like, I would have done it, Father. I would have done it for you. And then he said, I would have done it for all of us. For all of us. And then he's like, no, Loki, you wouldn't have.
And then he drops him.
Yeah, and drops him. Yeah. It's like, you would have done it for yourself. And
fun fact, I read an article mere moments before getting on this Zoom call that Tom Hiddleston improv that he suggested.
Of course he did.
Of course he did.
It's Tom Hiddleston. Of course he did.
They couldn't figure out like what the line should be, and then he was like, "Oh, let's take it back to Thor 1."
I mean, he's very talented. I wouldn't say improvise as much as suggested, right?
Right,
I'm
like
sure
he came up with it.
approval
Yeah.
and-
Yeah.
He threw it out as a suggestion. Yeah.
I'm
I
gonna
know.
say
I think the opportunity came. I think it was sitting in his brain the whole time. It's like, where can I put this in? And like, okay, what should we put here? He's like, immediately. I've been waiting for this my whole. He's done it for 11 years. I think he knows every single line that he has said as Loki. I'm very confident.
And that sad smile is gonna like haunt me till the end of my day. That smile that he gives them.
And the way that he said, so like going back, so obviously we've all been Marvel fan. I've been a Marvel fan. I watched Thor in theaters, and hearing his voice, like when they were replaying that, it's like he was so young, and hearing that cry that he did, and then now hearing it this time, like the man, like a deep voice for him to say that. Sorry, it was just like emotional for me because I was just like, man, I'm getting old. This has been over a decade of me listening to this because like first Thor came out when I was in high school, and now I'm watching Loki. This is very sad.
I will say at the beginning of this, Dimithri, you asked what we were hoping to get out of the series, and one, I wanted more of Tom Hiddleston.
Mm-hmm.
2, I wanted more of Loki. I wanted more classic Loki. And we got that with the episodes of him like chasing Brad, where he's like, shooting his magic and just like, okay, here's, we're going to do this now. And I got all of that. And then I also got a wonderful sign off, a wonderful goodbye. If this is, and everybody's saying it is his, Tom Hiddleston's farewell and goodbye from Marvel. And I don't know if it is or it isn't because, who knows these days. But if that's the last that we get to see of Tom Hiddleston as Loki, I'm 100% happy with it, Yeah.
I hope this is goodbye. I don't want it, yes, it's bittersweet, but for the sake of the multiverse, for the sake of everything, for the sake of the story, and just, the finality, I think that it is better that this is the end.
Yeah. I'm glad they did this because I'll be honest, I was very mad at Marvel for the way they did him in Infinity War. Because I felt really bad because he loved this character so much, and then the way that they just right there at the very beginning, I just didn't like that at all, how they ended it, and then they gave him a full-on series, and I do like this farewell of this character.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about these final moments. Let's break it down. He pulls it open with the telekinesis, his magic, whatever you want to call it, right? He walks out and sorry, you guys.
Oh, you're frozen.
I know. Yeah, I froze
you're back.
But I think I'm back.
Yeah.
Give me a. Okay, we're back to being healthy. Cool. So we see this final thing. He pulls open the doors. He walks through, and my first thought is also, is he gonna end up naked? I thought that his clothes were getting ripped off of him.
We couldn't be that lucky.
I was gonna say we were watching it and the jacket started ripping, and my husband was like, "Yeah, take the shirt off. Take the." I was like,
I wish we got that in season 1, and trust me, that lived rent free in my head. We got it. That's all right.
But instead, we got a super cool outfit, which I'm totally fine with.
Yeah, which they're calling God Loki. Is that what they're calling it? Because to me, it's king. He's always been a god, but now he's finally a king.
But no one ever looked at him oh yeah, that's a god. Now it's oh, he's holding lives.
Capital. He's a capital. Yeah, capital G.
Yeah.
Capital G god. Yeah.
Because even Hawk, when he says I'm a god, he calls it a puny god. Now.
Yeah.
Yeah. He pulls open the loom. He destroys it. The threads of the timeline go everywhere, right? And something that I noticed is that the end of that gangway was almost like the broken bridge, the Bifrost Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
So
I'm
saw
not making
that.
up stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah. It was symbolism.
Okay, cool. We're
going back with that word.
He walked over it, right? Continued the bridge essentially, where he grabs all these threads, invigorates it, puts life into it, right? Keeps it going, and then he disappears, right? So he's not just like out there on the gangway for all eternity.
Yeah, no.
He's literally as ascended. He pulls it together, and there's a throne that he makes gold. And also, I had to look up Odin's throne from Thor. The broken window of He Who Remains window. It's broken now, and it goes like this. And it's
Got
Odin's.
it.
So it mimics Odin's throne.
That's cool. I didn't see that.
Yeah, I noticed it on the second watch. And so, like, the broken window is Odin's throne. That little piece of rock, because it's not really a throne, but it's like it used to be, I guess, is gold for him to sit at and to finally ascend. And he makes Yggdrasil, which is supposed to be the tree that links all the realms.
Yeah.
But in this case, it links all of time. And
I flipped when I saw it. I was so excited.
Yeah.
When it started to turn, I was like,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also someone else online pointed out that his horns, that his headpiece was made out of, it was like a marble material, and it was the marble from the TVA, like flooring and stuff. Like it was the same material.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, so he's kind of
like every time some new something like the horns happen, I'm always like, I have to like check in on my friends that do like 3D modeling, and I'm like, hey guys, because before I watched the finale, this maker that I really love that's modeled the Sabine armor that I printed for my daughter, he like posted, he's like, I watched the finale, it was awesome, and yes, I'm making that thing. And I was like, what could he be talking about? And then I saw it happen. I was like, I see.
Like, I know. It's like after
he's almost done with it.
Yeah, every time I see as a cosplayer, when I see like a character that cosplay and they come up with a new outfit, I'm like, dang it! Like, dang it! I have to do this
all over again.
like that Ahsoka one, which I'm not going to touch Ahsoka again. I sweat tears, spent way too much money, and then for them just to put her in another outfit for the last 2 episodes.
But in Ahsoka they had that scene of Sabine laying her armor out, and I was like, that was for me. They did that for me. Like they did that for all the Mandalorian cosplayers. Like I was like sitting by my TV taking pictures each time she put something new out.
Somebody asked, Lost in the Woods asked, so what does the TVA do now? And Mr. Plow mentioned they hunt Kang variants because they do have files. And they do mention the 616 adjacent issue, and that's Quantumania, right?
Yeah.
That's the quantum realm off of the 616. Lost in the Woods says, can he leave the throne or is he stuck there? He's stuck there.
Yeah.
For all eternity. He is going to do a better job than Kang.
Yeah.
Instead of choking life, he will allow life to grow, which is now what the TVA does. Mr. Plow says they grow rather than prune the multiverse. Even from the get-go, the idea of pruning was tree related, was plant related, right?
Yeah.
Which is why it's so sad. It's such a sad ending. I'm surprised I like it, because you know how I am with sad endings, and it's sad, I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
It's like a bittersweet. I think
I love to be sad, so I was delighted by it.
Because he had that whole conversation with Sylvie about how he didn't want to be alone. Like, and that's why he was doing this, because he wanted his friends and he didn't want to be alone. That was his whole thing. And tearing up just thinking about it, because now he's alone at the end of time. He's connected to his friends, obviously, because you can hear, he was hearing the conversations and like checking in on them and everything else. They show that, but he's still alone, and that's that sacrifice he had to make. And that's why it's so sad. But
it doubles down on what he said, because what he said to Sylvie at the end of last season is he said, I don't want a throne, I just want you to be okay. So for his friends to be okay, he has to take the throne, which is like so sad, but so like kind of poetic and tragic. And like, I understand people like upset about it because like it's unfair, like it sucks, but like it's so beautiful. Like
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just breaks my heart a little bit.
There is a beauty.
Also, Lost in the Woods said something really, really good in the chat, so I want to read it. They said that before, when we were talking about him being a god, before he was using the term god as a threat, a desperate attempt at control, but now he says, I'm a god with power, and he says as a savior, giving him confidence. So like God was like, he was using as a threat before, but now he knows the kind of god he wants to be. He didn't really know what it was before, but now he knows.
Yeah. But my thing is now is kind of like, he's like a Sikh, like no one's gonna give him that recognition.
He doesn't need it.
He doesn't need it, yeah.
I think but they'll know, like they'll know what he did. Like no one else, I don't know I'm pulling that from, but like the world at large won't know what he sacrificed. The multiverse won't know, but Mobius will know, and B15 will know, and Casey will know, and OB will know, and Sylvie will know.
Yeah, that's so sad.
They'll know what he did, and that's enough.
And they also, it's sad that they didn't really get a goodbye either. He got his goodbye, but they didn't get their goodbye, which hurts. I mean, other than just being on opposite sides of the glass, it was going back to Doctor Who again with that.
So you went back to Doctor Who. I went back to Lost. I went back to not Penny's boat. That's what it reminded me of.
Oh, yeah.
And I immediately started crying, and I was like, I have to rewatch that episode. And then I cried more, and then I was just like, let's just lean into it.
That show messed me up.
Mr. Plow says, just hope that Secret Wars doesn't screw this up. Here's my idea. And it's not really that big of an idea. If they never touch Loki again, it's so much better. The reason is, even when the heroes eventually win Secret Wars, when they eventually win the fight against Kang, it's only because Loki is time. Like, if Kang was time, they wouldn't be able to beat him. But I think only by the fact that Loki is Yggdrasil allows there to be hope with the multiple variations of choices that they can make, that there is hope, right? Like, if otherwise Kang has the timeline.
Yeah, I hope they don't touch it. I don't want them to, maybe other than a spare reference or an Easter egg, I don't want them to touch it.
Yeah. I don't understand the ending. I don't understand what happened with Mobius. So Mobius is watching himself, but is he gonna hop? Is that the version of himself that Loki takes out? Is he gonna hop back into that timeline? What is he doing there? I was very confused. Because then Sylvie's there, but Sylvie has the tempad, so she can hop back to her universe with her multiverse, her branch with the McDonald's. But he was watching himself play with the kids, but it wasn't the same moment that we saw earlier. So
it wasn't?
I don't think so, because he was like helping them pick up their toys.
He was doing that in the original scene,
but too. he picked one of the kids up, right? And was like, "Oh, come on, let's." But they were like,
I think because Loki didn't interrupt at that point.
So that is an altered timeline. He's not hopping in; he's just watching.
I think he's just watching because
I think he's comfortable with a variation of him, because now there are variants of him, right? Yeah. There used to not be, right? And that there are variants of him that can live that life that he is now at the.
Or maybe he's on. I think he's on the sacred timeline. So I think he's watching himself on the sacred timeline, and he is a variant from another branch.
Because she says B15's like, "Oh, you're leaving." It's like it's like the oh no, now I'm gonna cry again. Like The Good Place, where they're like, you can leave whenever you're ready to leave, right? And that's what B15 says to him. She's like, "You're not coming in, are you? Like, you're leaving?" And he's like, "Yeah." So but where is he? But then he went to a timeline that already has a Dawn. So where is he go? Is there just going to be another guy on that timeline that looks exactly like him?
For me, I thought it was left open to interpretation. Like maybe he'll choose to go to that life, or maybe he just wanted to see and now he knows, because that was the whole thing, is he didn't want to see, he didn't want to see, he didn't want to know. Now he sees and he knows, and he can make that choice to go back to the TVA or go into his timeline, but they left it open. They didn't make that decision for the character.
Yeah, I thought he went back and looked on into like the sacred timeline, his life on that, and then he got to make a choice on whether he wanted to go back to his or not.
Yeah, because they gave him a file.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But wouldn't the file aren't the files on the variants? I don't know. I was very confused.
Yeah, they all have different they have files on every variant, because they got one of the Kane who had like the Kane Conqueror. He had a file on him. So they gave him his file of how he was supposed to live out his life in the sacred timeline. But because when Loki went back, it said from branch timeline, like Mobius was on, like that Mobius.
Mm-hmm. But they don't give when Mobius goes back, they don't give a marker for it. So we don't.
Yeah. We don't know.
That's the point. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's probably a point. I don't know. Listen, we're all confused. We're all trying to piece it together.
But we're less confused than we were at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A couple questions that I do want to bring up, because people I was asking on Instagram, on our Instagram story at the Keeg Show. I put out a question. So for anyone out there who has yet to like and follow any of these amazing people here and or the show, you can find us. How cool is it? This is from Aries. How cool is it that Loki turned the timelines into Yggdrasil? I mean, we talked about it. It's just
20 out of 10.
20 out of 10. It's just
coolest.
Super cool. And like, did you guys know Yggdrasil before?
Yes, I'm a big mythology nerd. I've mostly based around Rick Riordan's series of Percy Jackson and all that. That's what I grew up reading. So
and Neil Gaiman, those two.
I was about
both
to say,
of them. Neil Gaiman,
and he's done so many different series. He did one on Norse mythology, but over all of that, when it started turning, my thought over, oh my gosh, this is so cool, is I wish this was on the big screen. I wish I was in a theater right now to see this, because it is. I think that was the most excited and hyped I've been about Marvel since No Way Home, maybe. Yeah. I really liked Guardians 3. That one was really good too. But No Way Home was the last one I remember being like, this is the coolest thing ever. And Loki season finale, I got that feeling again. So yeah, that was my favorite moment for sure.
Yeah. Mr. Plow says infinite cool, so much so that we have a scaling problem.
Yes.
Yeah. As you couldn't tell, anything with any kind of mythology or anything like that, I'm a sucker for. So that's why I love Moon Knight. That's why I love the Thors. I love Loki. I like whenever they were adding any of the Norse mythology. Now they can introduce like Greek mythology. I'd be like a full circle for me. So
they have Hercules.
If they
play that out, but, yeah.
We'll see how that works.
But we have the Percy Jackson series coming out in December, so ready for that.
My daughter's 6.5. Can I read that to her? Is that okay? Because I want to read it, but I'm like, might as well make her read it too. Okay.
Right?
Percy Jackson?
I
don't know enough about it.
I wouldn't say that's 6.5.
I mean, they are in high school, but there's nothing. It's like I read it in middle school when I first started.
I would say the early books for sure.
She just cosplayed Toga for My Hero Academia and was like very excited because she got to put blood on her face. So I think she.
Okay. Oh yeah, and then she's watching anime. Then she's
she watches anime.
Yeah, what are you talking about? No. Let her watch Supernatural too. Like, go for it. It's all good.
We got a question on Instagram from EJ Culture. EJ Culture asks this question. I'll add on to the question. EJ says, "Do you think the TVA might appear in Deadpool 3? And I will also add to the question, or anywhere else. But EJ is specifically asking Deadpool 3. But do you think the TVA will pop up at any point? Or are we done? Like, the behind-the-scenes time police is better behind the scenes, right? I don't know.
Only because they don't like to connect anything. So I'm telling you, nothing's going to connect. I'm not putting any faith.
I hope they don't touch it. I just don't want them to. I want it to be that, like, we know because we've seen the series and we know it's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Maybe an Easter egg or a reference, but I don't want them to connect it.
Right.
I hope there'll be a stupid Easter egg. I hope it'll be like a.
I'm the opposite. I want everything to connect. I would love for it to all make sense, but I already know I'm going fully into this and not expecting anything to make sense. And also, I love the X-Men, and I know that they're not going to give it to me for another 5 years. So they're going to give me the Wolverine, and they're going to give me Deadpool, but I'm almost positive they're not going to give me the full X-Men in this Deadpool 3.
You got to give him time to recast Daniel Radcliffe as Wolverine. Ride or die. So the day I die, I want him to be Wolverine.
But
I don't care. I just know I'm so impatient when it comes to X-Men, and at this point, I feel like I'm going to be taking like my kids that don't exist yet to go see. I'm just like take my grandkids to go see the X-Men.
Mariah, you saw, and I don't want to spoil anything for the Marvels, but you saw the Marvels?
Yes, and it's not going to lead to anything. I'm not getting my hopes up. It was just an Easter egg. They're just giving me a tease because they're like, Mariah Carley's going to be here. She wants the X-Men so bad, so we're just going to tease her. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it.
I also want them to do it right, so I'm a little bit upset with certain things, but that's neither here nor there.
No, it was just a big tease, and then I'm not going to get it in a full X-Men for another 5 years. So I'm going to wait for post-credit scenes in Marvel, and I'm going to sit there and go watch every single Marvel movie to hope to go see a glimpse of the X-Men.
Well, I think the X-Men, the way the MCU is going to set up the X-Men, won't appear until after Secret Wars.
Yeah, and that's not happening until when? 2026?
That's not bad. That's 3 years from now, you know?
And for them to push it back even farther.
I wouldn't doubt they would have an X-Men project right on the heels of this final saga. Like, once the saga ends, boom, X-Men. I wouldn't doubt it. But, you know.
We'll see.
We'll see. Infinite possibilities with Yggdrasil.
I know. It's just...
With a
just hope.
When it happens, we have to say, thank you, Loki. Thanks for the X-Men, Loki.
Okay, I will once they give me the X-Men. Okay, Kevin Feige, if you happen to come across this, please just give me the X-Men. Like, I just want them so bad.
Aries also asks on Instagram, is there a greater villain arc in the MCU or in cinematic TV history? A greater arc than Loki that we just experienced?
No, that's the best. I think
like
that's
a greater like redemption arc.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what kind of arc are we talking about? Redemption arc? Then
let's say a redemption arc from a villain.
No, he has a better redemption arc than Thor.
How so? Oh, being
like just a 360 of his character, like where he came from, like his redemption arc and like what his growth and everything is this version, like this Loki. Yeah, hands down, this is the best one.
Because I know people bring up Darth Vader, but I don't buy Darth Vader. Darth Vader never redeemed himself.
Are we talking about we're talking about all of history
in the MCU or even anything, really.
Oh, I thought we were just talking about in MCU.
I mean, we could talk about just the MCU if you'd like. I'm saying that Darth Vader, I don't allow Darth Vader his sacrifice. I don't.
I do allow it. I don't count that as a full redemption arc, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. He gets to kill somebody he set up into power. What about everybody else? All the other bad things Darth Vader did.
That's true.
You know?
But yeah, I will have to say, though, Loki, I do think this is like MCU. This is the best arc. Best redemption story. Best like character development. Because what they gave me in Endgame with Steve Rogers.
What villains, though? Is there a villain that comes close? Like
Zuko.
Oh, in general.
Avatar. Oh, in general.
I stand corrected. There may be another one. Yeah.
I'm like, I know that there are.
Yeah. Just can't think of it.
Zuko's definitely up there. Blondie from
I don't like Zuko's arc.
Lost.
I like Zuko, but I don't like the fact that there's so many times he almost turns good, and then he's like, never mind, I'm going to slip into my old ways.
Major, of course he does.
I think Nebula.
Nebula's a close.
Nebula's pretty. I don't really see her as ever being, like, she was bad, obviously bad. I don't know.
But
it's
I
close.
feel like
it's
that
close.
was a product of environment type deal, you know?
Yeah.
Was Loki not?
No.
didn't say he wasn't, but
I don't think that was environment because he grew up pretty. He had a loving mother and a loving father.
Yeah.
He just was a brat. Okay, he had a good life. Nebula was tortured.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, like, Nebula just killing people for fun, and I don't think she ever really did that. You know, she
No.
wasn't evil. She was just
A product of the environment.
Yeah,
She
product
was
of the
in
environment.
and she wanted her sister's love the whole time. That's what
Yeah.
it was. I mean, she did try to kill her sister, but it was because of jealousy and because she wanted her
You know.
love and everything.
Right.
I feel that's sisterly love. I feel that.
You're cutting her
And-
a lot of slack. You're letting her off the hook to deny her redemption story. I don't know.
I'm gonna be thinking about this for a long time, and I'll let you guys know. But right now, I have Loki. I've got Zuko. I've got Michael from The Good Place. I also have Sawyer from Lost. Like, those are all very, like, starts off villain, bad guy you
Forgot
hate,
about Sawyer.
through character development becomes like your favorite character.
Oh, I got one. Once Upon a Time, Regina. There we go.
That's a great one.
Thanks. That's the only thing I could think of.
I watched
show...
one season and I was like, and then once they started doing like the more like, I was on board with like Snow White, but then once they were like, we're doing Frozen, I was like, man, that came out last year.
That's when it started turning.
I'm out.
Yeah.
That's when it started turning.
Did you just stop watching right around that point and just remember all the good
Peter
times?
Pan season with Peter Pan in right there.
Yeah,
great.
It's great. I tried to go back and watch the later episodes. It didn't work.
But that shows where I met. That's where I met Sebastian Stan. So
that's
really,
true. Yeah, he was in that.
He was the Mad Hatter.
He was only in the first season and got cast for Captain America, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna stick with Captain America."
I mean, I remember Sebastian Stan from Gossip Girl, so.
Nah, I didn't watch Gossip Girl.
I didn't watch Gossip
My sister
Girl
watched
either.
It, so.
Okay,
I caught
sure.
a few episodes.
Sure.
I'm
gonna go with that.
I never deny what I actually. I never deny what I actually watch. Did I watch a lot of Olsen twin movies growing up? Yes, I'll admit to that. But Gossip Girl, it was like a couple.
What's the best villain redemption arc in an Olsen twins movie?
Oh,
that's a whole other episode.
I would have to do a deep dive. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. That's the only thing I could think of, like, of villains. Because I feel like there should have been a good like villains arc, but every show that I love has ruined it with the last season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can name a few of them that could have had a good redemption arc.
Yeah, the Hound in Game of Thrones.
Jamie Lannister.
Ouch.
Game of Thrones.
Boo, boo.
They crushed that whole arc. Sorry.
They literally did crush
How is this everything in Game of Thrones?
The whole thing.
That's a hero to a villain, and the villain is the TV show Game of Thrones. It was a hero, and then it turned into a villain.
There's so much of that.
Lex Luthor on Smallville is the opposite of a redemption arc.
It's a D.
Once again, I can go in with Game of Thrones. Dany.
Oh, yeah.
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 Hero to villain, like within like 2 episodes.
That was it was a quick switch.
It's a lot. There's a lot.
As we close up this episode, have our opinions changed at all now that we've talked about it as a crew?
I like it even more if that was even possible.
Yeah. What was the thing that I didn't think about that Sara, or was it Mariah? Who was it where I was like, oh, I didn't think of that?
The last line is the line from Thor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah. So you got to rewatch it. And once again, just go, you know what? No, they deleted it. I was going to say go on Marvel.
Just go on TikTok. My entire TikTok is just sad Loki edits right now. It's sad Loki edits and then like Josh Hutcherson thirst edits. Because a friend of mine is like really into Josh Hutcherson right now.
He's really hot right now.
He keeps reposting all of them, so they keep showing up on my FYP, and I'm like, get out of here.
What was I gonna say?
He's also another. He's from Kentucky, like me.
Oh, is he? Oh,
yeah. He's from Kentucky.
I forget what I was gonna say. you guys have any final thoughts about Loki season 2? Where we want to see Loki or these characters? Or
I hope we don't.
Is this it?
Yeah, I think
I
we're
hope
all
it-
on the same page. Don't touch it. It's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Leave it as it is.
I think it's a perfect ending for him. This season is very much like the Great British Baking Show, where like sometimes like your signature challenge is not the best, and then the technical challenge you bomb it, but then at the end the showstopper comes in and you do so good that it redeems your entire week on Great British Baking Show. I feel like that's what the finale did. I feel like it redeemed the entire, like I was getting worried. They nailed the ending. The only thing is the Sylvie stuff was still pretty rough for me.
Yeah.
But
Just
as far as for
disappointing.
Loki, I think it was a great ending.
Yeah, I think so too. I want to thank three of you so much for coming on this show and taking time out of your night to be here to talk about Loki season 2. And we got it on, like, I mean, it's only been a couple days, which is awesome. I wasn't expecting that. We got together and we got to talk about it all. So thank you three so much. Thank you to everybody out there for watching and or listening. If you're watching us live, you're watching us on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show. We had one person on YouTube watching us. We had a whole mess of people on Twitch. But the one person, Mike R, saying, amazing finale, interested to see where they go next. That's what Mike says on YouTube. Thank you so much, Mike. But thank you to everybody out there for watching Lost in the Woods and Nighthawk and Mr. Plow and Ares. There was Torpedo something or another.
Torpedo chicken.
Torpedo Chicken. Of course. And everybody else out there who's watching. Before we get going, though, once again, everybody out there, go follow all these amazing people that I have on the show because they deserve it. Because you guys, not only do you come onto the show and do a great job on the podcast, but you also make amazing content. First and foremost, where can we find you? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug? Sarah, you want to go first?
Hello, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Ms_Marauder. We just finished up 2 back-to-back anime convention weekends, so we got some very chaotic cosplay content from that. And then we will be at LACC next. We are debuting our live-action Ahsoka cosplays. So I got Hera going, and my daughter, who is 6.5, is going to be a tiny Sabine. And we're going to meet and do photo ops with the cast. So we're very excited about LACC. And yeah, catch her in the kids cosplay contest at LACC.
That's awesome.
Fingers crossed. I think Logan, who's like that professional kid cosplayer, I think he aged out of her category. So
Yes.
she finally has a chance at placing in the kids cosplay contest. And I've made her Sabine literally from scratch. The only thing pre-made is going to be the shoes. So I'm even making the belts from scratch. So join me on that journey on Instagram.
I'm hoping somebody does a cosplay of this Loki. Like, get a bunch of those elastic bands and make them green.
Oh, yeah,
just,
someone's gonna do it.
Bring up, you know? It could
Just
be a
like
thing.
carrying a bunch of I could see that.
Just drag all those vines.
I can't wait.
But Sarah, you do amazing work, and thank you so much for being on this show. We also got Ryan. Ryan, where can we find you? What do you got coming up?
My slightly out of focus self. I can't get my camera to focus. You guys can find me at Ginger Snark on pretty much every social media website: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch. What do I have coming out? I just posted a hairstyle recreations video from the Marvels. So I did the hairstyles from the Marvels in that, which was pretty fun. But I do hairstyle tutorials for a lot of different pop culture, all your favorite fictional characters, actors, actresses, all that sort of thing. So you can find that on TikTok and Instagram, especially on YouTube. And then on Twitch, I stream video games. We do Lego builds, all the fun stuff. So definitely check it out if you'd like to.
I'm sure they would like to.
Maybe you can style my hair.
I think it
All of
looks
this
beautiful.
fro. I can't do anything with it besides put it in a fro. It's fine.
We should all get together. We can have a sleepover and do each other's hair.
Yes!
Braids.
Great train.
me and Dimitri will just watch.
Well, I think we could put bows in each other's hair. I think we have enough.
That's true. I could do little. I'll bleach it, and you guys can paint it. You guys can dye it.
Oh, love that.
Fun.
Straw. Like that.
Mariah, where can we find you? What do you got coming up?
You can find me at Mariah Carley with 2 Y's at the end on TikTok and on Instagram. I don't have anything coming up because I spent all my creativity in October for Halloween, so now I'm just taking a break, take a little smoke break until January. And right now, I just do all my modeling for different brands, like the Her Universe brand and the other fashion brands that dear to me and all in the fandom realm that way. But right now I'm just taking a little break and then I'll start back up with cosplaying. I don't think I'm going to go back until February for MegaCon. So
Orlando? MegaCon Orlando?
Yes, in February.
Okay.
And I'll debut my costumes then.
Yeah.
So just follow along.
I'm throwing an idea because I'm just throwing out cosplay ideas for everyone. Loki and whatnot. Someone could make an Idrisil dress. Like, I feel like it could come up and like flare out, right?
Oh no, Ryan's gonna do it.
I'm thinking I got friends at the Her
many,
Universe fashion show right now,
there's
so you
so
better
many
hush
like
your mouth.
LED fashion, like you can get the glowing lights going up and down.
Like these are
I don't
all
have
ideas.
money for this.
And then you can take my check. I'll bring my nephew. I'll put him in a little Loki costume, and you can wear him on the front, like in the little baby carrier. So it's like Loki sitting right in the middle.
Perfect.
And dress him up with the horn.
Oh my goodness, yes. And then
I made him a tiny Mandalorian helmet for Christmas.
Maybe give him green spaghetti, because you know how like when babies get messy with spaghetti, and they just
honestly,
spaghetti.
I can see this happening whenever I start having kids and I need to find out cosplaying idea. I'm going to steal your idea, Sarah. So I have many. I will give you credit, and I'm telling you right now, I will do that. I'm just.
Thank you three so much for coming on. Thank you everybody out there for watching. If you are on social media, obviously follow Ryan, Mariah, and Sara on social media. You can also follow the Keeg on social media at the Keeg Show. Pretty much everywhere on social media. TikTok and Instagram are 2 biggest ones, but we're also on Facebook and Twitter/X and Threads and all that stuff. So wherever you guys are at on social media, you can find us at the Keeg Show or /the Keeg Show. Wherever. We also got patreon.com/the Keeg Show if you want to find a way to donate to the Keeg. You can do that through patreon.com/the Keeg Show. We do a couple different shows through the Keeg. We do Comic Talk every Thursdays where we talk about that week's new comic book releases, DC, Marvel, and Indie. This is the Keeg Talks. Normally the Keeg Talks is every weekend, but now we're like doubling up and we're doing like one on the weekend and one on Monday so we can catch up on like the content that we need to catch up on. So to stay tuned with all that, TikTok and Instagram are probably the easiest ways to stay tuned to our whole schedule. This was Loki season 2, but we got a lot of cool stuff that we have yet to talk about. So definitely stay tuned for that. That's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for being on the show. Once again, I'm your host, Dimithri Perera, and this has been the Keeg Talks Loki season 2. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.